Hi everyone, and thank you for attending this presentation. My name is Philippe Cormier, President of Corbo Engineering, and this presentation was prepared in collaboration with Robert Haché, Director General of the Acadian Crabbers Association, better known as the ACA. The ACA is the fishers group leading this project, but also working closely with another fishers group, the APPCA. The ultimate goal of this project being the coexistence between the North Atlantic right whales and the snow crab fishers in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. With the support of DFO Canada and the province of New Brunswick through the Atlantic Fisheries Fund, our team has been working on 15 different initiatives since 2018. Out of those 15 initiatives, the effort to try fishing snow crab in the Gulf of St. Lawrence using ropeless technology is, without a doubt, the one that has attracted the most attention. In 2018 and 2019, extensive testing of the Desert Star system has been performed by 5 fishers. A prototype version of the assured system and an adapted version of the EdgeTech system were also tested by the same fishers. The main conditions we've been looking for on our various experiments with ropeless technologies are as follows: safety, reliability, ease of use, and financial viability. We also needed to fulfill 2 criteria before launching real-life experimentation: the expert approval of system's technical reliability and the fisher's acknowledgement that the system can actually work in a real fishery setting. As previously discussed, in the fall of 2019, we received a modified version of the EdgeTech system where the release system and the vertical rope were mounted inside a crab pot that could still be used for fishing. Even though the number of tests were limited, the reliability and ease of use of the system seemed promising. The success rate was 100%. The release mechanism could easily be rearmed in most weather conditions, and the omnidirectional transducer provided for acceptable deployment distance and reliability. What made the fishers want to try out the EdgeTech system? The extended North Atlantic right whale closures has drastically reduced access to the best snow crab fishing grounds in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Fishers need to regain access to those fertile grounds, and they are looking for ways to get there. Last fall, the word spread through the fishers community on the ease of use of the EdgeTech ropeless system. This positive feedback from the first participant caught the interest of other harvesters that were not part of the previous round of testing. This new interest led to 5 more fishers indicating their willingness to experiment with this ropeless technology. In collaboration with DFO and with the involvement of the snow crab fishers, our team was able to put together a pilot project to actually use ropeless gear in closed areas. We received an experimental fishery license from DFO Canada that allowed 10 harvesters using trawls of 10 pots each along with an EdgeTech acoustic release system to fish in closed areas during the 2020 snow crab season. 5 of those harvesters received financing through the Atlantic Fisheries Fund project, where the other 5 participants bought their own equipment to take part of the experiment. This event was possible because of close collaboration between DFO Canada and the fishers, as we were allowed the flexibility needed to plan and monitor this experimental fishery, but also because the fishers were trusted that they could render this pilot project without any risk to the endangered species. Limitations due to COVID-19. As for most people, the COVID-19 crisis wasn't part of our planning when we started 2020, and that resulted in receiving the equipment from EdgeTech 2 months later than first expected. That in turn prevented us from giving training before the season started and gave the harvesters only 2 weeks to use the equipment during the season. It also prevented our team from going out to sea during the fishing. We had to install cameras on deck to record the fishing activity on all 10 boats. Since we couldn't be present on the vessels, the information gathering responsibility was shifted to the captains. The forms filled by the crew gave us critical information like date and time of setting and release, the sea condition based on Beaufort scale, the GPS coordinates, the quantity of crab per pot, the deployment distance from the boat to the release unit, the route specification and brand used in the EdgeTech cage, and the ground lines between the pots. and length of the ground lines between the pots to measure the capturability of the trawls. Now for the fishing events. Configuration of the gear. In collaboration with Omarus and the Canada Nature Fund, our fishers used trawls of 10 rigorous 7-foot pots on which we installed an edge check release system at one end of the trawl only. I would like to point out that even though EdgeTech has developed a crab pot version of the original lobster trap model, it was decided, because of the limited time we had to test, that the original system would be used for this year's testing. The 2020 fishery started on April 24th. We received the equipment on June 9th. We did the individual training sessions with the crews and got the first gear in the water on June 12th. The last ropeless gear was pulled out of the water on June 27th, and the season closed on June 30th. The sea conditions varied from bowfall 0 to bowfall 3 when retrieving the ropeless gear. Within the 2-week period, our fishers were able to use the ropeless gear for a total number of 29 times. The distance between the pots on the trawl varied between 80 to 140 fathoms. Now for the location where the gear was used. Let's first take a look at the zones that were close to commercial fishing for the North Atlantic right whale protection within the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Now you can see on this next slide where the gear was used within those closed areas. Results and challenges. First of all, the use of trawls. It was the first time using trawls for snow crab fishing for most of the fishers involved. The advantages of using trawls combined with a ropeless system is that you can offset the cost of ropeless gear, but also the time needed to rearm and reset the system when using a large number of traps. It's also much easier to grapple ground line than a single pot if something happens with the system. Now, the main disadvantage that was brought up by the fishers using the system was that they didn't feel as safe lifting a trawl during rough weather as they would lifting a single pot. Now for the performance of the EdgeTech release system, we got a 100% success rate. The deployment distance ranged between 0.25 to 1 nautical mile. Because we had limited time to test and to adapt due to COVID-19, we ordered the extra large cages, but soon found out that it was too big and too heavy for what we really needed. For the overall performance of the system, out of the 29 trials, there was one failure, giving the experiment a 97% success rate. The failure was identified as having been caused by a snag between the rope and the cage. The trawl was then grappled by the crew and brought back to the surface. It was then successfully used in another 2 outings following that event. Finally, the performance of the trap tracker. That's the app that you install on a smartphone and gets used to activate the EdgeTech deck box, mark the fisher's spot location, and to see others in the surrounding. The app worked well most of the time, but the fishers sometimes had to try 2 to 3 times before it could connect with the deck box and deploy the system. It was successful in marking the fisher's own gear, but not as much when it came to showing the others' fishing gear, even though some fished in very close proximity. For better reliability, we think the app should be integrated to the boat's computer and connected to a satellite communication system instead of relying on a smartphone. Following last fishing season, we were able to do debriefing sessions with all 10 participants individually and then a group meeting that also acted as a brainstorm for future testing. Here's a sample of what came out as a conclusion. Despite extensive delays due to COVID-19, all 10 experiments took place and trawls were hauled successfully in closed areas. The trustworthiness of the EdgeTech release mechanism was confirmed by all participants for fishing in closed areas. The acceptability of using trawls of traps instead of individual units was also confirmed by all participants for use in closed areas. All 10 harvesters involved in the 2020 experiment have indicated their willingness to participate in an expanded fishery next year. To date, 10 additional harvesters have shown interest in getting involved, making it to 20 the number of fishers interested in participating in the 2021's experiment. The project authorities and the harvesters recommend an expanded ropeless fishery in 2021. Thank you all.